So this video is going to be just on the front of your pyramid notes. Just like with the prism notes, I did it in 2 videos. I'm going to do the same thing here in 2 videos. This one I really need to do in 2 videos because the front of the page, we're going to do them different than the ones on the back of the page. But we'll start with these first just for this video. So I can see I still need my area of a rectangle, of a triangle, and of a circle, always the same. And just like with the prisms, we do have to add in circumference here. So don't forget, circumference is the same as perimeter. We just call it a different name for a circle. And that's on your formula sheet. So you don't have to have that memorized. I just forgot to type it in here on your notes. So here we're going to see the surface area formula for a square, pyramid, or cone. Notice that it says square pyramid, and we'll get to that in just a second. But the surface area is capital B plus 1/2 PL. So capital B is the area of the base, just like it was for volume. Capital P is the perimeter of the base, so we're just going to add up all the sides. Now this one's new. L is the slant height. Okay, and the slant height is different from the height. The height we used in the volume, and that's the same thing. It's still the distance from the middle of the base to the apex. It's the same thing. But L is the slant height. And the slant height is the distance from the apex to the middle of a side. So you'll see the difference here when we look at a picture. But slant height and height, so L and H are 2 different things. But for surface area here, we're going to use 1/2 PL for our second part there. So this formula actually only works if you have a regular base. And a regular base means all the sides are the same. So we're going to talk about a square pyramid, a cone will work, or if you have a triangular pyramid, all 3 sides of that triangle on the bottom there have to be the same. If they're the same, then we can use this formula. So here I have a square pyramid. So I am going to use B, capital B, plus 1/2 capital PL. So the base is a square, so it's length times width. So 12 times 12 is 144, because it does tell us it's a square, so I know all 4 sides are going to be 12, and 12 on the back too. Now, P, that's the perimeter of the base, so I'm going to add up 12 4 times. 12 plus 12 plus 12 plus 12 gives me 48. That's my perimeter. And now L, that's the slant height. So the actual height, if we were trying to find H, if we were doing volume, that would be 8. That's what we used before, from the apex down to the middle of the base. That's your height. We don't need that for this one. Instead, we're going to use this as our slant height, because it goes from the apex down to the middle of a side. So that is your slant height. So that is going to be 10. Now the reason why we can only use this formula is if it has a square base is because these would be different down each side if the sides were different lengths. But they're all 12, so that means all of our slant heights are going to be 10, so we're okay. So the surface area is going to be 144, that's capital B, plus, now 1/2, you can either put it into the calculator as 1 divided by 2, or you can do 0.5 times 48 times 10. And when you plug all that into your calculator, you get 384 square inches. Remember, we're back to square units because this is area. So H, the height, is not used. Even though we used it for the volume, it's not used at all for the surface area. So next we have a cone. And again, cone, the circle around is always the same. It's not an oval or anything. It's the same all the way around. So I can use my formula. So capital B plus 1/2 capital P times L. Now, my base is a circle, so it's going to be pi times r squared. And that's going to be 1,520. Now again, I'm using calculator pi, so if you're using 3.14, your answer is going to be off by just a little bit, but that's okay. Now p, remember we're using a circle, so p is 2 pi r, so 2 pi times 22, and that's going to be a little more than 138. And now our slant height. Again, our actual height, this 49, that would be our height, but we don't need that. Instead, we're going to use 54 as our slant height. So my surface area will be this 1,520, and notice I'm keeping 4 decimal places, plus 0.5 times the 138 times the 54. And we plug that into our calculator, and we get 5,252.7 square yards. And again, if you use 3.14 instead of calculator pi, then it's going to be off by a little bit, but you're able to use either one on the test. And the last one we're going to look at here is a triangular pyramid. Now again, notice that all 3 sides on our triangle are all 8. So that means we can use this formula because all 3 sides are 8. If they were different, then you wouldn't be able to. So I can still use my formula, capital B plus 1/2 capital P times L. Now, since my base is a triangle, we're going to use 1/2 base times height. So 1/2 base is 8, and I can see my height there across the bottom is 6.9. When you plug that in, you get 27.6. My perimeter of the base, I'm just going to add up all 3 sides. 8 plus 8 plus 8 gives me 24. And then my slant height is 10. They don't even give us the height here. They don't even have the height drawn in there to the middle of the base because you don't need it. So I just need the slant height there. So surface area will be 27.6 plus 0.5 times 24 times 10. And you can use 0.5 or you can use 1 divided by 2. It doesn't matter. So the surface area is 147.6 square inches. Okay? So when you're using this formula, just remember you can only use it if the base has all 3 sides the same. So a square or a triangle where all 3 sides are the same, or a circle. If they're different, like on the back of these notes, you'll see that the bases are rectangles. I'll explain in the next video how to do those, but we're not going to be able to use this formula. If you have any questions, you can watch this video again or just ask me and I can clarify anything.